That's probably what I hate. The fact that you have to repeat some of like the things are.
No, but you can do edits of like,
I will try and add what more natural, like the
yeah.
first track. Anyway, all right. Welcome back to 40 Experience. I have with me a special friend from back from the days, Heidi. Uh, yeah.
Make it sound like you pulled me out of the vault.
Yeah, I've met Heidi back in the army, and I guess let's jump into it because we're trying again and recording it on the second go. So, yeah, just introduce yourself.
hmm
How old are you? Where are you from? What brought you here?
My name is Heidi. I'm 24 years old. This is currently I'm in the middle of my 7th year in this country, this lovely country, Israel. I've been here since I graduated high school, and I'll go back to that in a second. But as Danielle said, we were in the army together, which was a crazy, exciting, tumultuous time. And thank God this friendship has lasted like almost 5 years now, which is really crazy.
And the way it's lasting. And like we can not talk for like a year
Yeah,
and
literally.
like how are you? All good? Can you come? Yeah, and you came.
But honestly, this is like when people talk about how social media is really bad, like I normally agree with most of it. But at the same time, it really enables you to keep up with people that it's like, it doesn't feel like that. I feel like I know what's going on in your life sometimes because I get to see it, even if we're not in touch at
You're
all.
right. You're completely right.
But it still doesn't outweigh all the damage of social media, but whatever, that's a separate thing.
Let's focus on the positive.
Yes. Huge positive. I'm 24 and I originally am from Dallas, Texas, and my family is still there. My parents are in Texas. My brother and their wives, they're in my brothers and their wives, not one brother, multiple wives, are in other parts of the United States, but essentially all of my family is abroad, and I live here on my own, but definitely not alone, with lots of people with me here to support me. And yeah, that's my background.
So what brought you here?
What brought me here? This is one of my favorite questions. There's also so many answers, but for me, what brought me here is that I grew up in a religious environment, and I still am. I love speaking about religion. I have a really positive association with religion, which I think these days is a lot harder to come by, to hear people who grew up in religious environments and loved them and also continue to grow in the mindset they were raised in and to take just modern environment. And I was raised with B'nai Akiva. So the most basic of reasons why I'm here is that from a young age, I was taught about the value of Israel, and it stuck with me. It struck a huge chord within me.
What was that value?
So I think what I didn't realize when I was younger, because when you're younger, you hear something and you kind of just take it in as truth, and when you're older, you're able to really think about it. So when I was younger, I just heard this is where the Jews belong, and like I thought it made sense, and then like to think that and to believe it and then not to do it just didn't make sense to me. Like, why is it that around the world all these Jews in the diaspora are like, oh, like that's our homeland, we're meant to be there, but then like they continue on with their merry lives? Like, it didn't make sense, and I didn't want to be that kind of person. So I was like, no, like I believe this, I'm gonna go do it. When I got older, I think I also developed that into the realization, which like maybe this is a little bit dark and negative, but for generations, Jews have been trying to come to this country, and only in the last 75 years, how old is this country?
75.
75 years.
I hope I know.
I know, right? Have we actually been able to legally and easily? It's the most successful it has been in 2,000 years, or ever, because it's the modern world with planes and everything. And I just this is the part that I think is maybe like a little unfair, but I just think that it's almost like laughing in the face of all the people who've tried to get here and died for being Jewish, that I have this opportunity, and I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to live here, and it's my birthright, and it's our destiny as a Jewish people. And so whatever, that's me getting like intense and
No, but that's
off
the
the deep
reason.
end, but like that is my reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that I have a bunch of reasons that I share with people, because I think that at the end of the day, people resonate with different arguments.
Exactly.
And so when people ask me, I kind of cater what my answer is towards who's asking me. But for my reason, that would be mine that I think about the most.
In what point in your life were you when you made that decision of coming here? Like what was happening around you?
Um, so like I said, I grew up in a modern Orthodox religious home, and I also grew up with the background of B'nai Akiva. So it was something like that was spoken about around me. It wasn't until I was in high school, which I had already been to Israel a few times with my family on like the classic tourist trips. I was in high school, and I think it was my first time hearing about the concept of not of Aliyah, but of being a lone soldier. And at first, someone else was telling me about it, and I had no clue that was even an option. Like I'd never heard in that point in my life, and I want to say I was like in 10th grade. But at that point, maybe I never made the real connection that like going to Israel and being a lone soldier was like a total option. Like it wasn't a foreign concept that was like hard to do. Like it was actually really easy. And so that was the first time that I ever thought about it in my own terms, because until then it always was like, oh, obviously I'm going to live in Israel. Like I never really thought about it. It just like felt like that was what was going to happen with my life. But like I'd get there someday after college on my own time, maybe with a family when I'm older, or like maybe I'll just end up there later in life. Like it was always an abstract concept in my head. And then I think when someone was just telling me, actually, I don't even know if she knows that this is one of the reasons. I'm going to say her name, even though I don't know if she'll ever hear this, but Clara Wolfstatter is
First and last name.
last name. Yeah, no, but I think she'll be happy that I said that, because I've never told her this, but she was telling me about how she was considering or hearing about it and how cool it would be to be a lone soldier. And I and I remember just like being like, whoa, like it really just, I think, was a huge pivot moment of my entire life. It changed my entire trajectory. And then that was only like in 10th grade.
It's really early, 10th
It's
grade.
really early. And then, but it was never something I was like, I'm going to do it. It was just something that was always in the back of my mind of, oh, this is something people can do.
It created a certain feeling for you, like opened a different path for you to enter to Israel. Like what was the feeling of the idea?
It completely did. It completely opened this new pathway that was like truly accessible and like something I could like kind of hang on to. And my parents are actually they're very vocal of the fact that I always say I didn't decide that I want to stay in Israel until the middle of my gap year, but they always say like, oh no, you were speaking about joining the army already in high school. And like for me, like I didn't realize I was doing that. Like I didn't even know that I made comments, but one of the first times I said like, oh, I didn't know, they're like, no, you knew. Which is why when I decided a few years down the road that I was going to do that, they weren't surprised at all. But it really just kind of, I think, changed the entire trajectory of my life. Just for the first time, like hearing like, oh, anyone who can prove their Jewish identity and to some degree, can be accepted into this country. And after a series of a few simple tests, you can also draft into the army. And so, which for me go hand in hand, for me, not for everyone. And someone who does Aliyah without drafting it's incredible, and everyone should make Aliyah.
When was your first visit in Israel? What age?
Well, my first visit, I think I was a baby for sure. I don't remember how old I was.
How often you came to Israel before making
my family? I think we came about once every 5 years. We weren't coming all the time.
Yeah, it's not quite off. It's not.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you know this about Americans, but we're not so good at getting out of America sometimes. So
that's your word.
yeah, like there's this is obviously a huge stereotype, but America is so large that when my family would take vacations, we would travel within. We weren't one of those families that would go every summer. Like that wasn't us. We just went every so often. My oldest brother had his bar mitzvah in Israel in 2004, and I was 5 at the time. Then my first time that I remember being here was when I was 5 years old.
Do you remember a specific visit that made you feel a certain feeling, or like a specific visit of Israel? And what happened in there?
It's a good question. I came twice. No, actually, I came 3 times when I was in high school. I came once in 10th grade, and we had come. This was a family trip. In 10th grade, I came to run in the Jerusalem Marathon. I came for, I think, like 4 days. It was a whirlwind trip. Um, and I ran on behalf of this organization called Shalva. They work with special needs children. It's really beautiful. But I had raised money to come run, and I think that was the first time that like I did something without my family. And I think it was really exciting for me to come and be part of this whole like exciting organization. They raise like, I don't know, if not thousands, if not millions, thousands of dollars for this organization and its incredible work. That was my first experience on my own. Then I came with my family when I was in 11th grade. And we were visiting one of my other brothers while he was on his gap year, and my dad's father, and my dad grew up completely unaffiliated in his Judaism. It was my dad's father's first time in Israel ever, and it was really important for my parents for him to come because, he's my grandfather, he's getting older, they wanted him to come to Israel, and I think it was just really special for me and my family. That was my first time being with my family in Israel and being older and really taking in what was around me. So I remember we were visiting things and like it didn't feel so like touristy and irrelevant. It felt like this is heritage, this is history, and like I was at an age where I could understand what like the tour guide was saying. So that I think was really special. And then obviously the most meaningful was when I was here in 12th grade on March Day School. Their senior trip, like schools a lot of times have senior trips, and ours specifically is that you go on March of the Living, you go to a week in Poland and a week in Israel, and obviously that carries a lot of weight, a lot of emotion, a lot of meaning, and the being in Israel right after being in Poland is one of the most like meaningful experiences I think someone can have, especially a Jew. But it shouldn't.
I never went.
You've never been.
High school, yeah, in high school you have to go.
You have to go.
Yeah, and I was, oh my God, I'm embarrassed. I chose to stay home and study for my psychometry. Like, what is it in English?
Oh, your psychometric exam.
Yeah,
Like
I chose to stay and study. I was the only one from my entire school actually going to that test, and I stayed and I studied.
Listen.
And I didn't even get a good grade.
Oh, you shouldn't. Listen, it's fine, but you should go one day. Okay, it's okay at this point. Like
we have time for it.
Yeah, you've got a lot of years, and right now it's like the focus anymore is not the Holocaust at this point.
It's not the history; it's the future.
It's well, right now it's October 7th, but that's completely separate. Anyways, sorry.
Wait,
I don't think linearly. I go like.
It's okay. We're getting to know your personality as well. This is Heidi. I remember you in the army, like when we finished the schedule, you go back to your room and you were on the phone with like, she literally goes like one by one. She's telling about her day, catching up with everyone. And I remember just listening to her. She talks. And it was interesting. And she does it again. Like, this is Heidi. She's vibrant and alive all the time. And
not in Hebrew.
Not in Hebrew. When it comes to Hebrew, it sounds different.
Yeah.
She's a different person.
A bit of an alter ego. But no, it's a blessing and a curse to love to talk.
So you come here with a lot of connection from what I hear to the history and to like, it's kind of maybe your job to come here and fulfill this this right of existence for us. And I'm interested, you said that as you grow up, you raise the questions. So I'm interested to know what type of question you had, because listening to history, listening to believing in God, being Jewish, what is being Jewish, then you grow up, you come here as well. What were you questioning?
And again, I think my story is really rooted in religion, and I really hope it doesn't turn people off because I know the world that we live in. And I know that people don't like arguments that like go back to religion. It's just that that's my experience. So a lot of it's going to come from that. And please put that in there because I want everyone to know that I'm not hiding behind like religious doctrine, but everything for me is rooted in that. But essentially, a lot of my friends, like I have a really strong friend group and most of them are back in the States. One of a specific friend group is here with me. And then I have, thank God, so many more friends from my grade, from my school, from my hometown with me.
You're always surrounded with people.
Thank God. I'm a social being.
Definitely.
but a lot of them had really, really strong connections to their Judaism and really strong connections to learning. And in Judaism, and especially growing up in a religious day school, like connection to learning, obviously including secular, but really just like Judaic learning, um, and like learning like the Bible, Tanakh, and like all of like whatever. They were really strong in it. And for me, it was something that it was much harder for me to connect to. I connected so much more spiritually. Like I never had to really think about like God's existence. Like it was so clear. Like it wasn't that since then I have thought about it obviously. But I think that I just really used that to fuel my connection. Like I really leaned into it of like I'm spiritual and I find meaning in a lot of things that I do. And so with time, like that just strengthened. And I think the things that I started to question, it was like the idea that sitting in a classroom and learning about the importance of Israel or about our history, even 5,000 years ago, um, and how it's all taking place, or most of it's taking place in Israel, and to hear like these talking points about why we need to love Israel, why we need to be here,
but no one is here.
but no one's here, and I was just like, but I don't get it. Like if you're ingraining in me this ideology and you believe it and you're making these valid points, then like why aren't we doing it? And it just like it didn't make sense.
What do you think it's the main reason people don't make Aliyah?
The main reason, and this is definitely like
In your
I don't want
opinion.
anyone to think I'm talking about my parents right now. Like I think the main reason is completely the fact that life is 9 times out of 10 much harder, especially in the West. Because I am not going to start talking about countries that have much different lived experiences. I am America. I am America. I am American. I grew up in America. I definitely come from a very comfortable, privileged lifestyle that I'm very grateful and indebted to my parents for. But my life was much easier in America. And I'll give this example as to how I know. I used to be like the most irresponsible person when I was in high school and just younger. Like I just didn't have a care in the world, always like running late, not on top of anything. I never had to think like 2 steps about my life ever. And then I come to this country and all of a sudden like everything that I want and need and have to do to survive is only on me. It's not relying on anyone else. So it's like it made me realize like I'm a literally different person. And also just to know I'm the youngest in my family and I wear that title very well. Definitely people can in my family think that I'm entitled and spoiled and privileged and I get everything I want. And I'm not going to say they're wrong, but in this country, for a lot of people think I'm either the oldest or like an only child, which I think is very insulting. And people will say like, I don't understand. Like you're so organized, you're so on top of your stuff, like you're so
But you
responsible.
had to be.
But I had to be like this wasn't who I used to be.
No, I
But-
think there is some maturity in Israel people. Like, you can also separate it between the people who've done the army versus people who didn't went to the army as well. But the survival mode that we're under, everyone says it like we're under survival mode, and it seems like, and you know, I had this conversation with my therapist, and he actually explained it to me that our brain needs pain. And I think like the fact that we're dealing with a daily basis struggle here in this country, we are not for no reason strong. We're not for no reason being able to adapt to anything. And it's amazing that, and that will be my next question, with knowing the struggles and everything, what makes you still choose to stay here, even knowing what you can have and make by now in a different place?
So this is one of my favorite questions for sure. And I just want to highlight something that you just said now about the struggle of being in this country and the survival mode. First of all, 100% that's a huge factor of living here, both in like a micro type of way of looking at it, of like small things that happen day to day that don't have to deal with existential crises and threats of people trying to destroy us. Like it's very easy for people to feel like sometimes like you're trying to destroy each other within, which is exactly what a lot of people have said happened in the last couple of years in this country.
I love the fact that we have Moz in the background.
to everyone. Another example of this diverse and accepting and freedom of religion country.
How do you call it in English?
What?
When they call the prayer?
Like the mosque, like not the Muslim call to prayer, but it is the Muslim call to prayer.
Okay. So we have it in the background.
Different type, yeah. There's a different type of reality where, like, because the concept of being destroyed is so normal here, it also is so minimized. Like, people will try and like take the problems that we deal with every day and equate it back to what it would mean abroad. And like, I've heard so many times the example, even in the last few months, of like, what would happen if Mexico attacked the United States? Like, there's no American who's thought about that, like in actual, like, not just like, oh, funny, haha, like what would happen. Like, no one has the slightest bit of like of any type of existential threat to their lives in that country, unless like Iran maybe gets nuclear weapons. And so it's a different type of cushioning, and so that's a huge aspect of like, because that is almost normal. Because of that, everything else of this country that's difficult is put in a completely different perspective and spectrum of what actual difficulty is. And what I mean by that is that this country is the most inconvenient of all countries. And I've had a lot of time to think about this, 7 years to be exact. In America, and in most places, this country is part of the Western world. So a lot of what I'm about to say is on its way here, if not already. But like, in America, and this is constantly my example because I am American, you don't have to like want or work too hard for anything, which is obviously an overstatement and whatever. But at least for me, like, anything that I would want, it's at the tip of my fingers. I don't have to even like, I don't have to work hard. I don't have to think about it.
Maybe we can highlight, because we're comparing what requires you here to achieve something. It's just not required maybe in the same way in a different place.
Yeah.
Not the fact that you have to work hard or not. It's just a different work that you have to put in.
Completely. I mean, you could, I don't want to like, like bash on Israel right now, but I could name so many things off the top of my head that are problems and that are inconvenient. Inconvenient would mean when customer service people are just rude to you, like when you're in the grocery store and like all of a sudden like you did something wrong as a customer that like isn't actually your fault, and then you get yelled at from like a few different people, or how every bureaucratic service in this country, you have to like bend over backwards just to perform, when in reality, like, it shouldn't be so difficult, it shouldn't be so inconvenient, but then when you try and get some help about it, then you just like also end up getting yelled at, like. And I remember telling my parents one time when they were visiting here, and sometimes my parents get frustrated easily, and I was like, you can't think of it as people yelling at you. You have to think of it as one big family just yelling at each other. It's like everyone's just so comfortable with you that they're okay with yelling at you because like you're like family, so it's fine. Like, and that's my positive spin on it. But
I can relate to the fact that when someone yells at you or give you like hard times here, it's like they want you to be better in a way, like parents. Like,
yeah.
It's not like you're not good or I'm gonna be rude to you and I don't appreciate you. It's like, how to say, it's like there is a way to get things, and you have to be like real, and you have to be true to yourself if you want to get them. Like, don't fake it. Don't try to be someone you're not. Like, you want it, be yourself, give and provide what you should be given and providing me with, and work and do and make what you need to do, and you'll be getting it. And I think this is like how the struggles might be looking here, because if you want to be succeeding here, okay, it's not about just wanting. Like, you have to do X, Y, Z, and after you'll do it, then let's see where you are.
100%. I completely agree with everything you just said, and I also think that like here everyone feels like they're allowed to tell you what's in your best interest, which obviously, from their perspective, is helpful. From a foreigner's perspective, it's like, mind your own business. But even more than that, not even that everyone's like from a parent perspective looking out for you. At the end of the day, I say with absolute certainty that almost everyone in this country would die for me, and that is not something I would say in America.
No, it's just you're not the first one who said that. Like my friend from Amsterdam, she was also in one of the interviews, and you'll see it as well. She said like people worry about me, people care for me, and I was just here on vacation, or I didn't came for this long, and people like I care about them because they go to the army now during the war, but they text me and I'm back home in
Hmm.
Amsterdam and they're texting me asking how I feel, how everything is going with me. And it's beautiful to hear.
It's insane the amount of support and love this country has, um, which is for me one of the reasons. Like when it comes back to inconvenience and when people are just difficult here for seemingly no reason. Um, Listen, at the end of the day, I always say like culture is culture, and I'm American in culture, and I will always be polite. I will probably not raise my voice in line at trying to get falafel, and I will wait the extra few minutes until they see me. But and that's me, and that's my decisions, and I'm totally okay with it. But at the end of the day, like I know that no matter who is rude to me or cuts me off on the highway, like these are my brothers and my sisters, and not only that, they're the people that protect me every day. Um, and so I just think it just puts the amount of perspective this country has about what's really important, what really matters in life.
What
Um,
is really important? Tell me what it shows you.
what's really important? What's really important is a moral code and compass, and family and loved ones. And those mean different things for different people. Obviously, my moral compass is rooted in God and ethics and morality, which obviously I learned from Judaism. I think Judaism has built for us one of the best moral codes, um, and in my opinion, the best because it's the religion that I
Mm-hmm.
continuously follow. I'm not here to bash any other religions. I've done a lot of interfaith work. I love all religions, but that's how I root that, and then obviously
We
love
have
and
all
family.
religion here in Israel, especially here in Tel Aviv. You know, like everywhere you look, people from everywhere, and it's not about being Jewish or not. It's values that we like. This is our values. This is how we operate from that type of belief, and I think the fact that you came to Israel and you bring with you the American side and your culture, I think, and me personally, I've learned a lot from people from outside. Like you brought um, a different way of communicating, a different way of seeing the other person on the other side, and my questioning of why here and why to stay here with all the struggles and everything, it's because seeing different style of communication, different way of achieving things, and different way of accomplishing building your life. And I was really attracted to it, and I still do because there is a lot of struggle on this side of the
Mm-hmm.
border. And sitting here, it's like you're describing what we have here and how it's connected to being Jewish. But I think at the same time, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is a lot, like we also observe a lot from outside, like culture, people, and I think there is not like one way of how we identify as in the moral aspect and how do you say, like we definitely like absorbing from people the right things only.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. I also think that when we're because we're melting pot of all these different backgrounds and cultures, and citizens, and that doesn't just mean Jews from all around the world, but just there exist here so many different walks of life, um, that exactly like you said, like we combine all these different traits into what it means to be Israeli. And which is why I don't have to work so hard to reconcile the fact that when someone on the street is like, you got to be more Israeli, like my definition of what that means and your definition of what that means are going to be different in detail, but reach the same conclusion of we all work hard to be here. We all sacrifice something to be here. Even if you were born here, I mean, sitting next to you exactly right now, like
Yeah.
you a lot of times think you want to be abroad, and that is some type of sacrifice to be like, even if that's something I think I might want, like I want this more.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, just growing up here is a completely different experience
How
in
is
like
it
a
to feel
conceptual term.
like your family now back home with a connection to Israel? What do you feel if you were not in Israel currently?
Um, but I know that family and friends abroad, it's hard for them because they feel like there's a part of them that's bleeding, um, but they can't really find it, and it's a disconnect that's uncomfortable to face because they care so much. There's no doubt in my mind that my friends and family care desperately, and not just for me, for everyone. Like this is their home just as much as it's mine. But it's different reality. It's also I live here, and I living here can turn off the reality of what's going on right now and just go about my day. But at the end of the day, there isn't something that doesn't happen to me each and every day that reminds me I'm in a war zone. Whereas in America, if you just decide to turn off your phone, not look at the news for a little bit, you could go about your life, going to Trader Joe's, going to your workout, going to dinner, doing whatever you want, and be in a different reality completely. And that's just impossible in this country right now.
I like the sentence that you said, like they are feeling like they're bleeding, but they don't know from where. Do you feel by doing the aliyah and coming here, like after finding the bleeding source, you feel more, I don't know if that's like complete or connected or found your path, the fact that you're currently bleeding without knowing from where?
I think that it is something that, at the end of the day, it's your soul that's bleeding.
Yeah.
And I also just think that with me here on the ground, I have a different form of skin in the game than anyone who's abroad. Um, and I have just the fact that I'm in this land, and it's all super abstract, and someone can tell me like, oh, you're just saying that, whatever. Like, um, my example for this is that I love Jerusalem. And a lot of people in this country, even though it is our holiest place in the world, a lot of Israelis even are they're nervous in Jerusalem. They're not as connected to it, and that's totally fair. Totally fair. I don't have that relationship to Judaism. I love it. I love Judaism. I love Judaism. I love Jerusalem. I love Jerusalem. Um, and people always ask me like, why, like whatever. And I'm like, I can't give you words when I walk, but when I walk around the street there, like I feel so connected to God, and I feel so spiritual. Like I literally, I can't give you words to explain it, but just because I can't explain it doesn't mean it's not there. And I think that's exactly what it feels like when you've done Aliyah. There aren't words that I can say like, now my life is different. Yeah, obviously my life is different. I'm in a different country and completely different environment. But there's not something I can point to and just be like, my experience is now different from everyone I left behind in America. Not really left behind, but because of X, Y, and Z. And it's just the feeling that like, I didn't just say I was going to do it, but I did it, and that I'm doing it every day, and that I'm doing it when it's easy, and I'm doing it when it's hard. And I think that's exactly why I've been here for so long, and why I have no doubt in the future that I will continue to be here. Yeah.
Can I ask you if you can separate the connection? For me, it's interesting to hear about connection to, in the spiritual concept of connecting to what? Like, am I connecting to this land? Am I connected to this land because of God? What is like, where it's the connection between me to what? What is it for you?
I think for me, it comes first people, then land. Because connection to a land is, I'm going to get a little philosophical for a second, but I think that it's something that used to be way more prevalent when people used to truly discover land, conquer land, and like claim it for themselves. Now, like the world is discovered, and you can only really get new land by war, which still happens, but it's different. I think that it's something that is so abstract that even though everyone talks about it and understands it, it's something much hard to connect to, which is why the dispute about land in Israel. You didn't fight for it. I mean, we all fought for this land, but in terms of like thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, we didn't enter this land like on foot on our own with whatever our belongings on our back. Um, I think I just made a huge overstatement about the connection of land, but my point is that it's much harder to truly, truly like dive into that, and it's much easier to connect to people, especially in the modern world. We're such a social people, and like mankind is a social being, and so when you come here and you get to see like what an Israeli is and what it looks like and how it looks so different from person to person, but to know that I could sit in a room of 100 Israelis and they could all be from different religions. Some could be born in Israel, some could have just moved on their own, and I'm connected to every single one of them is just a really, really beautiful thing that I think I relate to way more, and also just like every single walk of life here that I find, just the way that you connect to it. I don't think I'm making sense anymore. I think that
This is where everyone gets like not confused, but like off track, but on track at the same time, because you're trying to describe what I'm trying to understand as well. Like sitting in a room, 100 people, you know no one, no matter where they came from, but there is a connection. And connection comes from somewhere. Like, it's not just random. Even me, when I went to work and I was working in a hotel with people from London, Amsterdam, like, everywhere, literally, in our first conversation, and I felt like I know them. I felt like we're just like meeting again after a while, or we don't know each other. We grew up completely different places, and still there is like something. And for me and what I'm thinking, my answer is it's more about the environment that it's being created for us, and we're inside of it, and we're operating and acting because we're affected by it. But what is this effect? That's where it gets interesting. Like, we're being affected by something, if that's like some like power or beliefs, or I don't know, but there is something in the air almost that it's like, I don't know, effects.
I think the effect is that there's a mutual respect here for how you choose to live your life. That even, which what I'm about to say, I think is really special in this country because, whatever, let me say it first, then I'll
Say
remember.
it.
I think that here you're allowed to do whatever you want, and even when people disagree with you, and they will disagree with you, they will to your face or they will behind your back, but they're going to disagree with you.
Yeah.
They still respect you and respect the right that you're allowed to do whatever you want. And I think that that's something that exists in the West in general, but here it's completely understood because no matter what type of Israeli you are, whether you're Ashkenazi or you're Sephardi or you're Mizrahi, or you just made Aliyah, or you've been here for generations, or whatever it is, like, or you're Arab or you're Christian, or it doesn't matter, or you're Druze. Like, there's so many different things to be in this country, and it's just a mutual understanding that like I'm gonna do me and you're gonna do you, and I'm gonna have opinions about how you do you, and you're gonna have opinions about how I do me. But your right to do whatever you want is the exact same as mine, which I think is one of the issues in other places. And like, who am I to say such things that I'm about to say? But like in other places, like I think a lot of the issues is that there's the people at the top who think that their way is the correct way, and everyone else should try to be like them. But here, obviously, the biggest majority here is the Jewish people in this country. And it's just like, there is no correct way to be in this country. You just are. And everyone will give you their feedback.
I love that.
They'll give you their feedback. They'll give you everything you don't want to hear. Like, it's like, I think everyone just here has a vested interest in each other. And at the end of the day, like I said before, that's family.
I kind of found myself actually understanding a new thing about myself after you said, like, you're gonna be here and you're gonna do you, and we're gonna judge you for it, but like everything is open. And I feel like the fact that I called this 40 experience, and what I said, it's my belief in the fact that we are experiencing something together, and it's part of one thing as well. And maybe this is my connection as well to the fact that everyone here have their own experience. I found the beauty in every single person here. And it's also crazy, like everywhere I look, people here are beautiful. Like, if I go and travel, I don't see the same beauty. It's weird. I'm not saying people are ugly, but people here are like lighted. I don't know. They're beautiful from inside out. And I truly, when I walk, I see experiences, like life experiences, walking and doing their thing, carrying their struggle, carrying their sadness, their happiness, and I'm there absorbing, looking, and experience my stuff, but I'm letting people affect mine, and I want to make sure I'm affecting theirs. And I think maybe this is like this is my connection to this land or this country and the people.
I think there's just an interconnectedness, exactly what you're saying, that it just is. And
It just is.
and that's it. Like, not to say that it doesn't exist around the world as well, but I think that it is stronger here. And again, that's something that it's not describable, it's not quantifiable, and it's something that you can only experience while being here.
Do you think you have to move here to experience it?
No, I think that people who visit Israel, a lot of times their lives can be changed, and then they take those experiences back to where they came from, and that's amazing and great, and keep on doing it. I think that you will never feel it on your own. You might see it, and especially like going back to Judaism, like you might come to this country and feel connected with everyone because these are your fellow like Jews and family, but I don't think that it's the same type of connection, unless you've lived here. And it doesn't have to be you have to live your whole life here. I think that each has its own different level of interconnectedness, and all this different, and again, not quantifiable or describable. But I
But do
think
you think, based on everything you said, the connection to the might feel based on how many connection with people you've made here in Israel? Maybe this is will determine if you felt this connection that we're trying to describe or you're not.
Well, I think no matter what, no matter how long you're here for, you're going to connect with people, and that is just regardless. It doesn't matter how long you've been here for that to happen. I think what I'm realizing right now is a really big factor in the type of connection that you have here. Is before I moved here on my own, I had been to this country with institutions or my family, or where my own choices weren't not under my control, but like I was under something else that was deciding what we were going to do that day, whether that be my parents or it be when I was on my gap year and I was in a program. Like, I didn't get to just choose
In the
what
army.
I did. In the army is another great example. Like, it's the autonomy. You don't have the autonomy. I think that no matter what, you're going to connect to people in this country, for even if you're here on a random layover in the airport, or if you're here for years, months, whatever it is. But I think that until you have your own autonomy in this country, it's a different experience. And we're talking about experiences. And I think that once you're here and you can experience it for all that it is and all that it isn't, or whatever it may be that like sets you off, like for all the good and the bad. I've had some of my worst days in this country, but also some of my best. And I think that it's those types of experiences, but it's the fact that like my day was in my own hands and it was my own choices, which I'm not saying that is the requirement or like what needs to happen for you to feel the most connected to this land. But until that happens, it's a different type of connection. And I think
Now I'm in the same position where I can, like, I choose what my experience will look like thanks to this country and the opportunities, and thanks to the courage in me that this country gave me, and thanks to the fact that I went through so much that some things are just easier and simple now because everything I went through.
completely. Also, the fact that I always say to people, especially like not as much now, but I used to a few years ago, a lot of people would text me that were younger than me, like, I'm thinking of joining the army, I'm thinking of making Aliyah, like advice, whatever. My first thing would always be like, go over the reasons that you want to be in this country, because when it will get hard, and it will, it's not an if, it's a when. You need to have a strong foundation in yourself that you know why you're here, how you want to succeed, what your goal is, blah, blah, blah. Because
But also be ready for it to change a lot
it,
during your stay here.
I mean, completely, like no day is like the other, but it's you're your only source of strength in this. I mean, you're always going to have people, but if you're not here for you and what you believe in, and that can be so many different things, then you probably won't be here for long, and that's still fine because you can take anything to learn from this country, but again, you have to root yourself in your choices, and you have to be proud of them, and you have to believe in them. And that's why I'm here. I believe in my choices, and I don't doubt for a second ever that I made the wrong choice in choosing to build my life here. Yeah.
Do you have your moments when maybe those hard days where you feel, what am I doing here?
Honestly, I don't think I've ever felt, what am I doing here? I think I feel all the time, why is it so hard to be here? And
Like questioning why is it so hard, or you know why it's so hard?
both, I think, and what I mean by that is a lot of times when people ask me about the army, and Danielle knows this firsthand, my go-to answer is always, I had a really hard time, but I never regret it. And I mean that so much. Like, it was really hard for me. I did not love it. But
Yeah.
I'm so happy I did it. And that's true. Like, it's not like I'm lying or I'm like saving face at all. Like there's so much immense pride and joy in the fact that I did something that was hard and I made it through. And I think that's exactly how I feel about Israel. Like, I've never woken up and been like, oh, that's it. I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I've woken up and said, like, why am I constantly being like tested to my limit? Why do they have to do this to me? That's
I literally said it yesterday. Like, I told it to Josh, my roommate. I told him, like, I'm just tired being tested. Like, I'm tired of being, like, my patient is being tested over and over again. I'm done. Like, I proved myself. Like, I don't want to show anything anymore.
Literally.
But it's so true. And I so relate to what you said about there is no regrets other than you feel so proud of yourself. You feel so powerful conquering another step, like another mountain. And mountains here are mountains. These are not steps. They're
massive.
They're massive. And I compared once and I'm comparing it again. It's like a workout. Like when I go and I work out and I sweat myself out, but I succeeded. I've done what I wanted to do. Maybe it's not 100%, but I've done 90. It's better than 0. And I finish. I feel powerful. I feel stronger. And I'm ready for the next day. And like, I think this is the country that we're in.
It totally is. Again, I have a lot of these lines that I already have in my head because people ask me these questions.
Yeah, I love this.
But again, when I'm in America, and none of my friends will laugh because I'm not going to say her dad's name, but I have a friend who
not first and last name.
No. It's not like Clara because I know Clara won't mind that I said her name. But one of my best friend's dads, he always is like, Heidi visits all the time in America, like visiting, like to go home and see my family. She visits all the time. She's not going to live the rest of her life in Israel. Like, she's going to come back, whatever. And like, for some reason he thinks this, and that's totally fine because I love him. Like, he's an incredible person, and it's my best friend's dad. Like, it's fine. But my best friend's always like, I don't know why he says this. Like, it's so clear that you're in Israel and you're so successful there. Like, you're so happy, whatever. But people like my best friend's dad will ask me like, why are you there? Like, I don't get it. Like, whatever. And I'll just be like, you have to understand that like when I put my head on my pillow at night, in Israel after a long day, or even a day not really doing anything, even a day just like, I sat in bed and watched Netflix and I lived a chill day, which happens way less than it does to me in America, but that's just because my life is here and whatever. But like when I put my head on my pillow and I go to sleep, like the amount of fulfillment and meaning and just peace that I have is so different from what I feel in America. And it's not because I don't love my family. I love them with my entire heart, and it's so hard to be so far away from them. And it's not because there isn't so much value and meaning in America. There is, but again, it's things that are just you're dealing with like these tethers that you can't describe, you can only experience. And that's exactly why this podcast is so important, because even if no one can give you words, they can give you the feeling in the best of their ability. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Like the feeling I have living my day and putting my head on my pillow at the end of my day, I just feel so full of meaning and pride that these are the choices I've made. And in America, I think I'm just like tired and want to go to bed. Like it's different. Like I don't know how, and I think people might like tell me like that's bullshit and I'm making it up, but like it's so there.
They will have to experience for themselves to know.
You gotta experience for yourself, you guys.
For the experience. So for the end, and I told you before we started that people definitely work a lot on describing and trying to put the words in one word. Why Israel? For what? What is this connection? One word.
One word to describe my experience in this country.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna say faith. And it's not only faith in God, obviously it's faith in God too, but it's also faith in myself, that knowing at the end of my day I'll be okay, no matter what struggles I face. And it's faith in the people around me that they've got me, they care about me, and they will protect me. And it's faith in God that this is where I'm meant to be and this is life I'm meant to live. I think that this country is full of faith. And you can see it right now in this war, and you can see it also in peacetime, but there's a level of belief and faith in destiny and what will be that I think fuels so many people here. And it definitely fuels me.
And we remember, at the end of the day, you will be okay with everything.
You will. You will. There's nothing here that you didn't face not because you weren't meant to. You're meant to face every single struggle and challenge to learn from it. And here we are. And this is a great time to reflect. And then we carry on.
Exactly. To the next theme.
Onwards and upwards. Up our mountain.
What do you think? What do you feel? How was it for you?
I loved it. This is my favorite topic. I love speaking about this country. When I first chose to study like government, I didn't really know why, because I didn't want to be in politics, but I felt like it was the closest thing to Israel advocacy, and trying to explain to people why this country is so special and important. And it's very near and dear to my heart. Like, it wasn't hard for me.
Yeah, I saw.
I love talking about this country to anyone who will listen, and I'm really grateful to now
put this knowledge out there
that it will haunt me forever.
Well, I learned a lot. Thank you.
So glad.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining me on this.
Yay. This is like a thing. This is my move. I need to stop doing it. It's weird.
What's move?
Like, I'm always like, woo!